Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 920th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that after slaying the husband, the 2 young men returned to the wife and ravished her. This I tell thee, O king, continued the wazir, but that thou mayest know that it becometh not men to give ear unto women's talk, neither obey her in aught, nor accept her judgment and counsel. Beware then, lest thou don the dress of ignorance, after knowing that which is righteous and profitable. Wherefore pursue thou not a paltry pleasure, whose tending is to corruption, and whose inclining is unto sore and uttermost perdition. When the king heard this from Shimas, he said to him, Tomorrow I will go forth to them, and it will be the will of Allah the Most High. So Shimas returned to the grandees and notables who were present, and told them what the king had said. But this came to the ears of the favorite wife, whereupon she went in to the king and said to him, The subjects of a king should be his slaves. But I see, O king, thou art become slave to the subjects, because thou standest in awe of them, and fearest their mischief. They do but desire to make proof of thine inner man, and if they find thee weak, they will disdain thee. But if they find thee stout and brave, they will dread thee. On this wise do ill wazirs with their kings, for that their wiles are many. But I will make manifest unto thee the truth of their malice. And thou comply with the conditions they demand, they will cause thee cease ruling, and do their will. Nor will they leave leading thee on from affair to affair, till they cast thee into destruction. And thy case will be as that of the merchant and the robbers. Asked the king, How was that? And she answered, I have heard this tale, Annette, of the merchant and the robbers. There was once a wealthy merchant who set out for a certain city, proposing to sell merchandise there, and when he came thither, he hired him a lodging wherein he took up his abode. Now certain robbers saw him, men wont to lie in wait for merchants, that they might rob them of their goods. So they went to his house and sought some device whereby to enter in, but could find no way thereto, and their captain said, I'll manage you his matter. Then he went away, and donning the dress of a leech, threw over his shoulder a bag containing somewhat of medicines, after which he set out crying, Who lacks a doctor? And fared on till he came to the merchant's lodging, and him sitting eating the noonday dinner. So he asked thee, Dost thou need a physician? And the trader answered, I need not of the kind, but sit thee down and eat with me. The thief sat down facing him, and began to eat. Now this merchant was a Belleforchete, and the robber, seeing this, said to him, I have found my chance. Then he turned to his host and said to him, 'Tis but right for me to give thee admonition after thy kindness to me. I cannot hide it from thee. I see thee to be a great eater, and the cause of this is a disorder in thy stomach. Wherefore, unless thou speedy measures for thy cure, thine affair will end in perdition. Quoth the merchant, My body is sound, and my stomach speedy of digestion, and though I be a hearty eater, yet is there no disease in my body. To Allah be the praise and thanks. Quoth the robber, It may appear thus unto thee, but I know that thou hast a disease incubating in thy vitals, and if thou hearken to me, thou wilt medicine thyself. The merchant asked, And where shall I find him who knoweth my remedy? And the robber answered, Allah is the healer, but a physician like myself cureth the sick to the best of his power. Then the other said, Show me at once my remedy, and give me thereof. Hereupon he gave him a powder wherein was a strong dose of aloes, saying, Use this tonight, and he accepted it gracefully. When the night came, the merchant tasted somewhat of the powder, and found it nauseous of gust. Nevertheless, he misdoubted not of it, but swallowed it all, and therein found ease that night. Next night the thief brought him another powder, wherein was yet more aloes, and he took it. It purged him that night, but he bore patiently with this, and rejected it not. When the robber saw, he gave ear unto his word, and put trust in him, nor would gainsay him in naught. He brought him a deadly drug, and gave it to him. The merchant swallowed it, and no sooner had he done this than that which was in his stomach fell down, and his bowels went rent and sunder, and by morrow he was a dead man. Whereupon the robbers came in and took all the merchandise and monies that belonged to him. This I tell thee, O king, added the favourite, but that thou mayest not accept one word from these deluders, else will there befall thee that whereby thou wilt destroy thyself. Cried the king, Thou sayest sooth, I will not go forth to them. Now when the morning morrowed, the folk assembled together, and repairing to the king's door, sat there most of the day, till they despaired of his coming forth, when they returned to Shimas and said to him, O sage, philosopher and experienced master, seest thou not that this ignorant lad doth not redouble in falsehood to us? Verily, 'twere only reasonable and right to take the kingdom from him and give it to another, so our affairs may be ordered and our estate maintained. But go thou in to him a third time, and tell him that naught hindereth us from rising against him and taking the kingship from him, but his father's goodness to us, that which he required from us on oaths and engagements. However, tomorrow we will all go up to the last of him, assemble here with our arms, and break down the gate of the citadel. And if he come forth to us, and do that which we wish, no harm is yet done. Else we will go into him, and slay him, and put the kingdom in the hand of other than he. So the wazir Shimas went into him and said, O king, that grovellest in thy gust and thy lust, what is this thou dost with thyself? Would heaven I would seduce thee thereto, and it be thou who sinnest against thyself. There hath ceased from thee that which we knew in the aforetime of integrity and wisdom and eloquence. Could I but learn who hath thus charged thee, and turned thee from wisdom to folly, and from fidelity to iniquity, and from mildness to harshness, and from acceptance to me to aversion from me? How cometh it that I admonish thee thrice, and thou acceptest not mine admonition, and that I counsel thee rightfully, and still thou gainsayest my counsel? Tell me, what is this child's play, and who is it prompteth thee thereto? Know that the people of thy kingdom have agreed together to come into thee and slay thee, and give thy kingdom to another. Art able to cope with them all, and save thyself from their hands, or canst quicken thyself after being killed? If indeed thou be potent to all this, thou art safe, and hast no occasion for my rede. But an thou have any concern for thy life and thy kingship, return to thy sound sense, and hold fast thy reign, and show forth to the folk the power of thy prowess, and persuade the people with thine excuse, for they are minded to tear away that which is in thy hand, and commit it unto another. Be resolved upon revolt and rebellion, led thereto by that which thou know of thy youth, and thy self-submission to love less and less. For that stones, albeit they lie long under water, and thou withdraw them from therewith, and smite upon them other, fire will be struck from them. Now thy lieges are many folks, and they have taken counsel together against thee with a design to transfer the kingship from thee to another, and accomplish upon thee whatso thou desire of thy destruction. So shalt thou fare as did the jackals with the wolf. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 921st night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the wazir Shimas concluded with saying, And they shall accomplish upon thee whatso they desire of thy destruction. So shalt thou fare as fared with the jackals and the wolf. Asked the king, How was that? And the wazir answered, They tell the following tale. A pack of jackals went out one day to seek food, and as they prowled about in quest of this, behold, they happened upon a dead camel, and said in themselves, Verily, we have found wherewithal we may live a great while, but we fear lest one of us oppresseth the other, and the strong bear down the weak with his strength, and so the puny of us perish. Wherefore it behoveth us seek one shall judge between us, and appoint unto each his part, so that the forceful may not lord it over the feeble. As they consulted together as such subjects, suddenly came up a wolf, and one of the jackals said to the others, Right as you read, let us make this judge wolf between us, for he is the strongest of beasts, and his father was sultan over us aforetime, so we hope in Allah that he will do justice between us. Accordingly they accosted the wolf, and acquainting him with what they had resolved concerning him, said, we make thee judge between us, so that thou mayest allot unto each of us his day's meat, after the measure of his need, lest the strong of us bear down the weak, and some of us destroy others of us. The wolf accepted the governance of their affairs, and allotted to each one of them what sufficed him that day. But on the morrow he said in his mind, And I divide this camel amongst these weaklings, no part thereof will come to me, save the pittance they will assign to me. And if I eat it alone, they can do me no harm, seeing that they are a prey to me and to the people of my house. Who then is the one to hinder me from taking it all for myself? Surely 'tis Allah who hath bestowed it on me by way of provision without any obligation to any of them. It were best that I keep it for myself, and henceforth I will give them naught. Accordingly, next morning, when the jackals came to him, as was their wont, and sought of him their food, saying, O Abu Sharan, give us our day's provender. He answered, saying, I have nothing left to give you. Whereupon they went away in sorriest plight, saying, Verily, Allah hath cast us into grievous trouble with this foul traitor, who regardeth not Allah, nor feareth him, but we have neither stratagem nor strength on our side. Moreover, one of them said, Happily 'twas but stress of hunger that moved him to do thus. So let him eat his fill today, and tomorrow we will go to him again. Accordingly, on the morrow they went again, and betook themselves to the wolf, and said to him, O father of foray, we gave thee authority over us, that thou mightest apportion unto each of us his day's meat, and do the weak justice against the strong of us, and that when this provant is finished, thou shouldest do thine endeavour to get us other, so we be always under thy watch and ward. Now hunger is hard upon us, for that we have not eaten these 2 days. So do thou give us our day's ration, that thou shalt be free to dispose of all that remaineth as thou wilt. But the wolf returned them no answer, and redoubled in his hardness of heart. And when they strave to turn him from his purpose, he would not be turned. Then said one of the jackals to the rest, Nothing will serve us, but we go to the lion, and cast ourselves on his protection, and then assign unto him the camel. If he vouchsafe us aught therewith, 'twill be of his favour, and if not, he is worthier of it than this scurvy rascal. So they betook themselves to the lion, and acquainted him with that which had betided them from the wolf, saying, We are thy slaves, and come to thee imploring thy protection, so thou mayest deliver us from this wolf, and we will be thy thralls. When the lion heard their story, he was jealous for Almighty Allah, and went with them in quest of the wolf, who, seeing him approach, addressed himself to flight. But the lion ran after him, and seizing him, rent him in pieces, and restored their prey to the jackals. This showeth, added Shimas, that it fitteth no king to neglect the affairs of his subjects. Wherefore do thou hearken to my rede, and give credit to my words which I say to thee. Quoth the king, I will hearken to thee, and tomorrow, Inshallah, I will go forth to them. Accordingly, Shimas went from him, and returning to the folk, told them that the king had accepted his advice, and promised to come out unto them on the morrow. But when the favourite heard this saying reported of Shimas, and was certified that needs must the king go forth to his subjects, she betook herself to him in haste, and said to him, How great is my wonder at thy submissiveness and thine obedience to thy slaves! Knowest thou not that these wazirs are thy thralls? Why then dost thou exalt them in this highmost pitch of importance, that they imagine them it was they gave thee kingship and advanced thee to this rank, and that it is they who confer favours on thee, albeit they have no power to do thee the least damage? Indeed, 'tis not thou who owest submission to them, but on the contrary, they owe it to thee, and it is thy duty to carry out thine orders. How cometh it then thou art so mightfully affrighted at them? It is said, Unless thy heart be like iron, thou art not fit to be sovereign. But thy mildness hath deluded these men, so that they presume upon thee, and cast off their allegiance, although it behoveth that they be constrained unto thy obedience, and enforced to thy submission. Therefore, an thou hasten to accept their words, and leave them as they now are, and vouchsafe to them the least thing against thy will, they will weigh heavily upon thee, and require other concessions of thee, and this will become their habit. But an thou hearken to me, thou wilt not advance any one of them to power, neither wilt thou accept his word, nor encourage him to presume upon thee. else wilt thou fare with them as did the shepherd and the rogue. Asked the king, How was that? And she answered, They relate this adventure of the shepherd and the rogue. There was once a shepherd who fed a flock of sheep in the wold and kept over them straight watch. One night there came to him a rogue thinking to steal some of his charges, and finding him assiduous in guarding them, sleeping not by night, nor neglecting them by day, prowled about him all the livelong night, but could not plunder anything from him. So when he was weary of striving, he betook himself to another part of the waste, and trapping a lion, skinned him, and stuffed his hide with bruised straw, after which he set it on the high place in the desert, where the shepherd might see it and be assured thereof. Then he accosted the shepherd and said to him, Yonder lion hath sent me to demand his supper of these sheep. The shepherd asked, Where is this lion? And the rogue answered, Lift thine eyes, there it standeth. So the shepherd raised his eyes, and seeing the semblance, deemed it a very much a lion, and was affrighted. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.